Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'da. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, our beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam went through a great number of trials and tribulations. There was the 3-year boycott where the Muslims were not able to and permitted to interact with any of the people of Mecca, where they went through times of starvation and great drought. We also know that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam lost both his beloved wife Khadija radiallahu anha and also his uncle Abu Talib, who protected him for more than 40 years. And this was known as the year of sorrow. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam traveled to Ta'if to give da'wah or to call people to Islam in this particular city, and they rejected him as well, tried to humiliate him, and the children used to throw stones until the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was afflicted physically, in that he had lots of gashes and they drew blood until his shoes, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his shoes were filled with blood. Through this great trial, this great tribulation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Jalla wa ala then honored our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We take from this that as long as we are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through all of these trials and tribulations, inna ma'al usri yusra, that with difficulty there comes ease. And we know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam remained very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worshipping Allah Jalla wa ala, following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fulfilling the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam with one of the greatest miracles that was given to any of the prophets or messengers alayhim as-salatu was-salam. And this is the incident which is known as Al-Isra'u wal-Mi'raj. And that is the going up into the heavens, or the going to Masjid al-Aqsa and then being taken up to the heavens. Al-Isra', which is part of the journey, which is done at night time, taken to Masjid al-Aqsa, and the Mi'raj is then being taken up into the heavens. This great blessing, this great honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was given to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam while he was awake, and his body and soul went on this journey. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't that his soul went on this journey alone. This was a physical journey that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on, and there are so many benefits, subhanallah, that we are able to inshallah ta'ala extract in this particular incident. Now the hadith has been narrated by the incident has been narrated by a number of companions, from them Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, which state that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sleeping in the house of Hani, or close to the house of Hani, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was woken by Jibreel alayhi salam, and then appeared to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam an animal which was bigger than a donkey but smaller than a horse, which was called al-Buraq. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam then got upon this animal, which took him all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa in Palestine. The Prophet ﷺ describes the journey that he went on, in that each step that he would take, this particular animal would be like one stride, would be like to the end of the horizon. So the Prophet ﷺ was taken to Masjid al-Aqsa. When he reached there, ﷺ, Allah Jalla wa ala honored the Prophet ﷺ by being taken up into the heavens, where the Prophet ﷺ went through the heavens and met a number of different prophets and messengers alayhim as-salatu was-salam, from them Isa and Ibrahim and Musa alayhi salatu was-salam. On this particular night, and the hadith is very, very long, on this particular night we know that the 5 daily prayers was obligated upon the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That the 5 daily prayers were obligated not in this worldly life, subhanallah, beyond this dunya, but these 5 daily prayers, showing their importance to the Muslim, that they were obligated in the heavens, subhanallah. And we know the story about how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam originally received 50 prayers and then passed by Musa alayhi salam, whilst Musa alayhi salam said that your qawm, your people will not be able to handle this. Go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask for the prayers to be reduced. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being very shy, did this until the prayers were then taken down to 5 daily prayers. Upon returning from this particular and blessed journey, the Prophet ﷺ in the morning informed the people of the Quraysh that the Prophet ﷺ said that he had gone on this journey from Mecca all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa in Palestine, and then he was taken up into the heavens. When this was said to the Quraysh said, You did this in one night? Some of them clapped in amazement, and some of them placed their hands on their head in astonishment. The people of the Quraysh then thought about this situation and said, this is a perfect example or perfect time for us to take advantage of this claim of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How is it possible for a person to travel in one night and return, a journey that usually takes 40 days there and 40 days to come back? A person is claiming that he did this on one night. It is not possible. So what did they do? They immediately went to the strongest follower of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. Why did they do that? They did that because they realized that the strongest ally and the closest friend to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Abu Bakr. When this information was given to Abu Bakr, and that he would somehow show some taraddud or doubt, or maybe not accept what they are saying, then know that this would have an impact upon all of the companions. It would have a ripple effect. So the Quraysh, they went to Abu Bakr and they said, "Oh Abu Bakr, do you know what your companion is claiming?" And they said, "What is he claiming?" And they said, "Your companion claims that he went all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa and returned in one night." Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he said, "This is easy for me to believe and accept. I believe in something which is far greater than that, and that he receives revelation in the morning and the evening." And for this reason the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Abu Bakr is as-Siddiq, the one who upholds the truth. And we know the great status of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that every single person I gave Islam to, everybody needed at least a second to think about it, except Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, when I told him about Islam, he accepted Islam immediately. And for this reason we know that Abu Bakr radiallahu anh is the greatest of all of the companions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him. Now, I want to mention some benefits and lessons that we can take from this beautiful incident. Although the story is of course much longer than I'm telling you, and I would advise us all to go to the seerah, the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and read about these things in greater depth, so we can have a greater love for our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how the people tried to ridicule him and make fun of him, but how he sallallahu alaihi wasallam remained firm, and how the companions similarly, they also remained firm. So the first benefit I want to focus on is that there are times, or there are matters which we listen to in our deen, which may go beyond the understanding of the logical world, quote unquote. I.e., that how is it possible that an individual would travel from Mecca all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa in Palestine, and then go up into the heavens and meet the prophets and see so many things about from the paradise and the hellfire, and then come back all in one night? The person who's using their logic would say, this is not possible for the physical body. This is not possible that this could happen to anyone. However, our deen is based upon revelation. Our deen is based upon wahi. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى. That glory be to Allah who took His servant at night from Masjid al-Haram in Mecca all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa. And this is something which is a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. And because of this, we do not question it. We do not try to bring analogies that how could a person do this. So when we hear things of this nature, we say, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We hear and we obey. We have absolutely no doubt about these events at all, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us about the authenticity of these particular incidents. Another benefit I want to mention, inshallah ta'ala, is the great honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam in this miraculous event, in that he subhanahu wa ta'ala took the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam on this blessed journey, and he was able to see so many blessed things from the paradise, and the reward that would be given to those in the paradise, and similarly to come back to his people and warn his people about the punishment of the hellfire. Because the Prophet ﷺ was shown the punishment to certain individuals who were involved in dealing with usury, in riba, those who were involved in fornication and other evils. So the Prophet ﷺ came back to his companions, and he said to all of them, that if you knew what I knew, then you would laugh less and that you would cry more. The Prophet ﷺ on this journey was able to see many haqa'iq, many realities that he ﷺ was never privy to before. And when he came back to his people, subhanallah, he was able to be more sincere, he was able to be more passionate in the da'wah that he was given to his people, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had increased him in knowledge. Another great benefit that we take from this particular incident is that Masjid al-Aqsa was the first qibla of the Muslims. Through the entire duration of the Meccan period, the Muslims, every single one of them, would pray in the direction of Masjid al-Aqsa. And even when the Prophet ﷺ went to Al-Madinah, there was about a year and a half that the Muslims were praying towards Masjid al-Aqsa. So this Masjid al-Aqsa has a very, very high status in the religion of Al-Islam. And just as it is the situation with Mecca and Medina, we would want to preserve these places. They are sanctified, they are sacred places, and we want to ensure that these places are there and free so that people can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without any people stopping them. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to open the way for people to establish ibadah upon earth. Allahumma ameen. Likewise, we see the reaction of the companions and how this made them firmer in their deen, and that sometimes you may hear about something that you never previously heard about, but immediately what are you to say? That this is part of our religion. We don't question it or start putting worldly analogies to that. This is our deen, and we are honored and we are happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave that to us. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to allow us to be steadfast when we gain knowledge and hear about new things that previously maybe we hadn't heard of. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us strength, to increase us in iman, to increase us in sincerity and accepting and following the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for there is nothing more beautiful than that. Allahumma ameen. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless us all. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.